Good day, good day, good day, everybody. Happy Sunday. I hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to Living Life in Joy. I'm excited to be with you today as we continue our celebration of Women's History Month. So, let me just tell you, Living Life in Joy is another vehicle that I'm blessed to have to connect with people who are connected to their yes, who are living their life in purpose and on purpose. And I always said that I want to be a vessel of joy in the world. And so living life in joy is one of those vehicles that I get to use to express joy in the world with other people, which is absolutely fabulous. So today's guest is definitely a woman who is connected to her yes. She is doing dynamic things in the world. I can't wait for you to meet her. We started last Sunday, y'all. We started last Sunday with a bang with Angela Corley, who is a food scientist, which I never heard of in my life. She broke us open with her story of making food accessible, having food equity, and teaching young people that there's a whole industry that we don't know anything about as Black folks. And she wants people and youth, especially, to be exposed to that. So if you didn't see last Sunday's Living Life in Joy, you want to check out the replay. Okay. So without further ado, let's go, set, ready. All right, welcome back to Living Life in Joy. As I said, we are celebrating Women's History Month. And I was digging around finding information about this month's Women's History Month, this year's Women's History Month. And I came across two themes. I don't know which one is the right one, but we're just going to go with both. So the themes are women providing healing, promoting hope, and break the bias. I like both of them. I'm going to go with both of them. Women providing healing, promoting hope, and break the bias. And I think our guest fits perfectly in those themes, both of them. And you will find out why in a minute. So let me just share a little information about Martine Kalaw. She is an author, speaker, and commentator on the human aspects of current immigration laws and policies. Her commitment to work comes from her journey as a stateless and undocumented immigrant survivor. Martine advocates around issues related to immigration rights and provides resources to those in need by volunteering for United Stateless and via her nonprofit, Stateless and Dreamers Foundation. Martine is the CEO and president of Martine Kalaw Enterprises, a consultancy focused on providing human resources professionals with time, resources, and confidence to drive diversity, equity, and inclusion for organizations. Martine's clients includes organizations like Wheels Up, Bank of America, the Howard Hughes Corporation, Cornell University, and many more. She has contributed to TEDx, Huffington Post, and has appeared on C-SPAN. Martine has authored two books, Illegal Among Us, A Stateless Woman's Quest for Citizenship is her memoir, and we're going to talk about that. And her second book is The ABCs of Diversity, A Manager's Guide to Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Martine holds a master's degree in public administration, focusing on immigration law from Syracuse University's Maxwell School. So, without further ado, please welcome to Living Life in Joy, Martine Kalaw. Okay, so what might have happened is my producer might be frozen. So I am going to welcome Martine. and sooner or later he will get unfrozen and we'll just keep going.
Thank
Okay.
you, thank you, thank you for having me. Happy Women's History Month.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So let's get right into it, Martine.
Yes, yes.
So I was sharing with you that living life in joy is also kind of like a Sunday in praise in the sense of, won't he do it? Won't he do it in our lives? So I would love for you to share your won't he do it story.
Oh my gosh, Melissa, if I share the entire "Won't He Do It" story, this this conversation would be eons long. But let me encapsulate it and just say that I started as um, a young girl, a young orphan girl,
Mm,
going through an immigration system that was designed for me to fail because I was stateless. So although that I was born in Zambia, my family was from Democratic Republic of Congo. I wasn't recognized in either country, nor was I recognized in the US. So
mm,
my reality was potentially sitting in a detention facility for however many years,
mm,
for a long time. So I went from that, right? This, navigating through this broken system without a family, without a home, feeling a loss of dignity
mm,
about that whole process, to being in a space where you were so gracious in my intro, being in a space where I can usher other people from a place of loss of dignity, other undocumented immigrants, other stateless individuals, into a place where they can become dignified. They remember their source of power. So that's one
mm,
group. And I am also able to do that with other marginalized communities. And I get
yes.
to be a bit bridge builder, right? So that's really what I know. Like that, won't he do it? That was the reason he did it, right?
Mm,
Allow me to be a bridge builder for other communities. So what I do is I allow those who are in marginalized communities to remember their source of power, to remember, regain their dignity. And then those who have access, who have privilege, to see those who lack privilege
mm,
as not charity, as not
mhm,
help, but an investment. These are individuals, these are people, these are communities that have an impact. And so there's a mutual and beneficial, there's mutual benefits for
yeah.
everyone involved, right? So no one's just giving charity to the other. And that's truly what building bridges is about. So I
Yeah.
went from where I was being disenfranchised, feeling downtrodden, feeling a loss of dignity, to where I am, where I'm actually able to build bridges for others. So that's really in short. And in the process of that, um, so essentially building my spirituality,
Mm,
remembering who I am, and going into a journey of forgiveness for everything and everyone that I
mm.
felt wronged me, and letting that go and being a full and complete human being walking this life. So
That's
that's my
beautiful.
good story in a
That's
nutshell.
beautiful. And you know what strikes me? I love one of the reasons why I love this show, not because it's my show, but another reason why I love this show is because I always learn something. So last week I learned about, food scientists. And then this week, Martine, it never registered to me United Stateless.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
never, like the magnitude of that.
Yeah. I'm glad that that is resonating, because the stateless community is the way that United Stateless, which is an organization that I volunteer with, the way that they define being stateless is, if being undocumented is like being in jail, being in prison, then being stateless is like being in solitary confinement, because there's really no legal recourse. And one group of individuals that we've read about in the news that I don't think many of us even realize we're stateless, we're Haitians, right?
Mm,
In the last couple of months, we've been hearing and seeing, stories, these deplorable stories about what's happening to Haitian refugees at the border.
mhm,
But what many people don't know is that when they're being sent back, where are they being sent back to? A lot of these Haitian individuals were born in Dominican Republic, but what
mm,
people don't realize is one way out of many ways that a person can be stateless is if the country revokes a person's citizenship. So the Dominican Republic instituted this really crazy, deplorable law that basically said, and this is a way to, get rid of Black people in Dominican Republic, saying that, hey, if you, if your ancestry is of Haitian descent, so predating back to the 1940s, then your citizenship is revoked. So even if you were born in Haiti, your parents were born in Haiti. I mean, even if you were born in Dominican Republic, your parents were born in Dominican Republic, your grandparents were born in Dominican Republic. What happens when your citizenship is revoked from the country that you were born in, that you belong? Can't go back to Haiti, can't go to the US, can't go to Dominican Republic. So what essentially you're stateless. And there are over 12 million stateless people in the world. And that's the highest group of people that are likely to be human trafficked.
Oh my goodness. So in the work that you're doing in this specific area, and then we're going to talk about DEI, I think about the theme, breaking the bias, right? Yes. So if someone is stateless, the bias that they must face in everything.
Absolutely. There's so many biases. There's so many layers because it's also the body in which you're in that you're stateless. And I love that, through this organization and through the work that I do myself with, diversity, equity, and inclusion, we get real about what statelessness looks like, right? Being stateless is one of the most diverse group of people, right? Stateless can look like any skin tone, any language, any country, right? You've got stateless people from Amsterdam, from Ethiopia, from Egypt, everywhere, Sudan, wherever. But the thing is that if you're in a white body, people don't necessarily, right, consider that you're stateless or you're an immigrant or any of those things. And so I think that's also important to acknowledge. And we have conversations around that, right? So you can be marginalized within a marginalized community within another marginalized community. And so that's important to acknowledge. And absolutely, when you're stateless, there's also bias because the world and the community at large is, I will say the US is more familiar with being undocumented. And that's a very, very important segment of our population. But even within the undocumented population, the conversations is really solely focused on DACA. And what people don't also realize is that there are 3.9 million other undocumented immigrants that are not qualified for DACA, right? I would have been one of those, right?
Right.
If I were still undocumented. So these are nuances that the average person shouldn't be expected to know, but that's why I do the work that I do to educate. But more importantly, I do the work that I do to support and provide resources for individuals who are part of this community that I will always belong to, right? Individuals who feel broken can start to feel broken by the system while they're navigating through lawyers, navigating through the court system, trying to find the right attorney, immigration attorney, trying to, figure out the paperwork. This stuff can really break you. And the part that is also often overlooked is the mental health of someone going through this journey, right? When you're constantly, in my book, my memoir, I talk about the mental anguish I experienced when you're having a judge virtually tell you that you're nobody, you don't exist, and you don't have a family to validate that you do exist, then you can start to feel like you're nothing. And when you're in hiding and trying to protect yourself just to survive, it's easy to start to feel like maybe I am worthless. Maybe I'm nobody. I'm not worth anybody's time. So that's where the loss of dignity starts to come into play.
Yes. Your book, Illegal Among Us, A Stateless Woman's Quest for Citizenship. Just that title alone draws you in. And you're really recounting your own personal journey to where you are today. Like, the reason why your journey, your won't he do it, your won't he do it is a testimony to
Yes.
the possibility, right? Like, talk about promoting hope.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I really hope that someone who's looking for any ounce of faith, because this is something I struggled with my whole life, was having enough faith. But what I realized in the long run is that I just had a little inkling of faith. That's really all I carried for most of my life.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, my mother died with full-blown AIDS. Okay. I watched my mother die. I took care. I was my mother's caretaker at 14, 15, and watched her die with full-blown AIDS. My stepfather died right before. I mean, the first shoe and the second shoe dropped when you lose your parents, right? When you lose your mother, I mean, no one, I mean, that's like the rug is pulled from under you. So that was really the first part of that won't he do it, because when that happened, I was certain that I was not going to be able to survive life. How do you survive without your nucleus? And then it went from that to going straight into being undocumented and trying to stay, have a home and take care of myself. I mean, there were many years where I did not know where I was going to sleep, where I was going to get food the next day. I literally didn't know. I mean, I look back on that. Sometimes I feel like I even ask myself, oh my gosh, that was really me? Like, I can't even believe that's where I was and where I am, because it seems like two different people, but that's what humbles me, because I am not afraid to share that with people and to remind myself of where I came from, my very humble beginnings. So if that is not a won't he do it story enough, I don't know what is. And then beyond that, beyond, higher power, God, the universe, whatever we need to feel comfortable saying, pulling me through all of these experiences, putting the right people in my path. I went to boarding school for free. I wasn't looking to go to boarding school. I didn't even know how to navigate into boarding school. Got into boarding school. Then I went to college. Then I went to graduate school, right? Through private grants. So that's a miracle in itself. And then on top of that, I go through this 7-year battle. My case goes to the highest immigration court, the Board of Immigration Appeals, and it gets overturned. Lawyers themselves, I remember my lawyer didn't believe, she, doesn't believe in a higher power or any of that. Said, this is a work of faith. This is a miracle, because she said the likelihood of the Board of Immigration Appeals overturning a case, especially as long as my case had been, is like 1 in 500. That just doesn't happen. The Board of Immigration Appeals has a backlog of thousands of cases. I mean, this is just a known fact. The fact that they opened my case, read my files, and then responded with a 7-page response as to why I deserved to be in the US as a permanent resident, and basically forced the judge, this judge who was on a crusade to get rid of me, and said, no, you're going to make her a permanent resident. That's another miracle. I mean, my whole life is sprinkled with miracles, with won't he do it? So that's
But you know what, Martine, when you have that depth of understanding how God works, how the universe works, you don't live in the realm of the laws of averages.
No, I do not.
You don't live in that space.
I live in a space of authority. I realize the power of my word, because it goes directly from my mouth into the universe, into this ether. And something happens, and I don't take that for granted either. But I rely on that. I have confidence in that.
That's right.
And when I don't, because there are days when I don't. Remember, I said I walk around with like this much faith, right? I can go back and just reflect on literally anything. I can go, like, let me think about last year. What happened last year? Let me think about 10 years ago. Let me think about 15 years ago.
Yes. Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
That's it.
So, Martine, I want to talk a little bit about like all of that experience and all that has happened and how you have used that to inform
Yeah.
organizations, corporations about the work that you're so passionate about, that you can lend your expertise and experience to shift the whole culture of
Yeah.
an organization. And I've been in human resources for a really long time. And so I know that it starts at leadership. So if they don't have that consciousness for equity, for inclusion, for diversity, then it's not going to impact the rest of the organization. It's just lip service. So
That's right.
could you speak to your work that you're doing with
Yeah,
organizations?
absolutely. And my work, the reason I was led to this work is because through my journey of being stateless, undocumented, orphaned, I navigated through all these different communities and different spaces.
Hmm.
I was given this sort of epistemic privilege where I could, whether I was on the sidelines, the periphery of different communities, whether I was invited in, it just widened my lens. I got a different perspective. And
Yes.
so what that allowed me to do was to really pivot my thinking and put myself in somebody else's shoes, no matter how difficult that other person's
Mm-hmm.
perspective might seem to me, to allow me to do that. And I know that that's a privilege. Not everyone is capable of doing that. Not everyone wants to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
that's part of why I do the work that I do. And I spent so many years in a human resources space. I was leading learning and development departments, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like on the sidelines of HR, but you work as
Mm-hmm.
an HR team. So for me, it became really clear to me, and the work that I do with different clients is that, we were 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, we were at a really pivotal space within DEI, right? Companies, organizations had spent maybe, the last decade or two trying to drive diversity initiatives really through unconscious bias. Obviously that didn't work, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we heard all of the horrible things that happened, focusing specifically, what fueled everything, was the murder of George Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
So a year and a half ago, companies were trying to respond to that, right? And some of that response was performative, right?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't genuine, it was performative. Let's just be honest.
Right.
And now what's happening is we're at a really critical impasse because at this point, what companies are doing is they're trying to appease their employees,
Mm-hmm.
generally speaking, because we're in this space of the great resignation.
Mm-hmm.
So employees are the holding their companies accountable. Like, what are you doing in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Mm-hmm.
And now human resources professionals are being charged with that responsibility. And what we also know is that it's actually fairly rare to have individuals that look like you and I who are sitting at
Mm-hmm.
the helm of human resources in a lot of companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
What we know is white women have been the primary beneficiaries of diversity,
Mm-hmm.
equity, and inclusion, initiatives in the past, right?
Right.
So a lot of the majority of people that sit at the head of human resources are white women.
Mm-hmm.
And while they might have a certain perspective on DEI, they don't have the entire
Right.
picture. So that's where I can do work to
Mm-hmm.
support not just white women, of course, who are in resources, anyone and everyone who feels burdened with this weight of, okay, now I've got to figure this thing out.
Mm-hmm.
And it just feels like a burden to them, to be honest, not to everyone. And
Mm-hmm.
even for women that look like myself and you, right?
Right.
It can also feel like a heavy weight to carry because we're
Right.
all carrying the weight of the lived experience. And now we
Right.
have to like solve that problem.
Right.
So, and then when we're sitting in the space of human resources already, we're already struggling to define our seat at the table. Now we're given this DEI responsibility. So that's the work that I do, is to get organizations, companies, to understand and see the value of DEI, that it's a business imperative. It's just as important as having a marketing team, as having a sales team. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it actually can drive results. It can drive the business. Yes, it's a nice to have. absolutely, it's important and it's the right thing to do. But when you look at who's sitting at the helm of
Mhm.
most organizations, white
Yes.
men, right?
Mhm.
I mean, that's statistically, we can look at that. We can see that that is a fact.
Mhm.
That it being the right thing to do is not necessarily enough motivation for everyone to make this a priority. So now
Yes.
we've got to start talking about the numbers. Why is it effective? How does it actually affect business, right?
Yes.
And so I want to equip human resources professionals with the way to do that. And I also believe managers are the second group of stakeholders in this who can
Mhm.
drive DEI.
Yes.
Managers have the widest belt. People stay in companies sometimes
Mhm.
because of their managers. Managers influence performance management, hiring,
Yeah.
compensation, attrition, all of that. So let's incorporate DEI into foundational management training. That's
I love everything you said, Martine. And let me just share with folks. Martine has two books. One is Illegal Among Us, A Stateless Woman's Quest for Citizenship. The second is The ABCs of Diversity, A Manager's Guide to Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. There they go. There they go.
but
And
Melissa, it just audiobook just came out yesterday.
ah!
Woo!
Yes, yes, yes. Martine's website is up on the screen. So if you are in a position, you're, let's say you're leading the charge for DEI in your organization, you want to reach out to Martine. You cannot do this alone. You cannot do this alone. So
Absolutely.
Martine, I could talk to you all day long. I'm going to see if I could squeeze in our joy questions
Yes.
in 2 minutes. Let's see if we can make it happen.
All right. All right.
Because I want to know what brings you joy, girl. So what does joy look or feel like for you?
I already said it. It's authority. It's speaking things into existence and having the confidence that I say it and that's it.
All right. All
Authored.
right. All
Yes.
right. So I say I'm living life in joy. What are you living life in?
I'm living life in peace.
Mm,
In peace. That peace be with you has a whole new meaning for me.
yes, yes. I feel that. I feel that. The last joy question. What is your joy song and why?
Okay. It's called Born to Win. It's an Afrobeat song by Timaya. So you guys please check it out.
Okay.
Why? Because it's not about arrogance, but you've got to show up in the world every day with armor to
Mm,
go into this world, I mean, there's a lot going on right now in society. So we've got to show up with our armor, right? Sometimes you got to fake it until you make it. And then once you do it enough, you actually believe it and it becomes your truth. And
mm.
so I just choose, this is a decision I make every day, that I get to make every day, that I'm going to show up in this world and I'm going to win each day, whatever
Yes.
that looks like.
Yes, 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 yes. Oh my goodness, girl. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. This is what peace looks like. This is what triumph looks like. Yes, this is what authority looks like. Check it out, y'all. Martine Kalaw. Go to her website, see the work that she's doing, support her work, buy both books. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I've learned so much. I feel, I lead with a sense of possibility, with a sense of possibility. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right, everybody. All right. So I told you we was going to be bringing it for Women's History Month. Yes, women who are doing it right now. It's wonderful. Our history is amazing. And we definitely stand on the shoulders of those who came before us and our ancestors. But I want us to understand that there are women in our midst right now doing the work, making a difference because they are connected to their yes. So join me next Sunday for Living Life in Joy, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Sip with Red Melissa, Monday through Fridays, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and Sunday in Praise at Rockland Centers for Spiritual Living, 11:30 a.m. on Sundays. Peace and blessings, peace and justice. We're living life in joy, connected to our yes.